it's Amy from Amy C Books, and I thought before we got too far into 2015, I would backtrack a little and talk about all of the awesome books that I read in 2014. So last year I read 80 books? 80 books, yes. I read 80 books, and I thought instead of just giving you like my top 5, top 10, I'll just do a run through of every book that I read. Now, most of those I'm just going to give you the title and the author and tell you if I liked it or not. But some of them, I'll give you a little, what my little thoughts were for it. Some of the books I own, and so I'll have them to show you the neat little cover. Most of them, however, were library books, so I wasn't going to go and check out every single book that I read last year, just so I can have it for the video. So the first 2 books that I read in 2014 were part of the Chronicles of Narnia series, and that is A Horse and His Boy, and The Silver Chair by C.S. Lewis. So I recommend, if you are reading the Chronicles of Narnia and you're struggling to get through this one, which I did struggle to get through this one, listen to it, because it's so much better. So those are the first 2 books that I read in 2014. I have to go to my little computer here, and I'm going to have, you know, this awesome like blue on my face here. The next book is, I read the Love Comes Softly series. So that's 8 books in the series, and that's Love Comes Softly. See, Love Comes Softly, Love's Enduring Promise, Love's Long Journey, Love's Abiding Joy, Love's Unending Legacy, Love's Unfolding Dream, Love Takes Wing, Love Finds a Home by Janette. Awesome series. I love it. It's such a good series. And I'm really sad because my mom, when they were here over New Year's, she took her books back. I was very sad. I mean, they're hers, so they belong to her, but they're in Colorado and we're in Texas. Okay, moving on. The next, I read a series by Kingsbury. It's called Learning, Leaving, Longing, and Loving. If you're looking for a decent Christian fiction love story series, I recommend it. They were decent. Then the next one I read the 13 Little Blue Envelopes and the Last Little Blue Envelope by Maureen Johnson. And then I read the Summer I Turned Pretty series by Jenny Han. And then the next book was, I had been reading the Princess Diary series by Cabot. And so I continued the series on Princess in Training. Now, I started reading it because I really loved the movies. And let me just say that the book series is nothing like the movies at all. The next one is The Great Escape and Call Me Irresistible by Susan Elizabeth Phillips. And now these are 2 books that I just was walking through the library and I just kind of randomly picked them. They were interesting stories, but I probably won't read anything else by this author just because she goes a little bit more than I would want. And then the next book, I read 2 by Sophia Kinsella. I read The Confessions of a Shopaholic and Shopaholic Takes Manhattan. Fun, awesome, really funny reads. And then I read a couple books in the Sorcerers Ring series by Morgan Rice. Okay, and then I read another book by Sophia Kinsella, Remember Me. I definitely love this book. It was funny and great characters, so I highly recommend. That's Remember Me by Sophia Kinsella. And then the next one, my husband and I read together, and it's a book that I read several times, and that is Chasing Francis by Ian Morgan Crone. Definitely recommend this, even if you don't believe in God. I definitely recommend it. It's awesome. One of my top favorite books of all time. So that is Chasing Francis by Ian Morgan Crone. The next book, dun dun dun, I read the Ugly series. I read all 4. Uglies, Pretties, Specials, and Extras by Scott Westerfield. And I really loved the Uglies. I loved Pretties. That Specials was, and Extras was just unnecessary. I don't know. I just didn't like it. It was completely different characters, and it just seemed weird and I don't know. But I would definitely recommend the entire series, but just go into Extras knowing that it's not really, doesn't have that same feel as the rest of the series. And then I read, Cabot has this mystery series. It's called the Heather Wells Mystery Series, and that is size 12 is not fat. Size 14 is not fat either. Big boned, and the bride wore size 12. These are hilarious. Hilarious. And then I read Porch Lights by Dorothea Benton Frank, not my favorite. And then I read My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult, and I love this book. I had watched the movie, so I thought I knew how it ended, but maybe the movie either ends differently than the book, or I forgot the ending of the movie. But I highly recommend this book. No, you need a box of Kleenexes by you while you're reading almost the entire book. And then I read What a Girl Wants by Kristen Bellerbeck. And this is, I didn't realize it until I was halfway through it, and this was it was a Christian fiction book, and this is completely different than any other Christian fiction that I had ever read. And so is that the main character doesn't make fun of Christianity, but pokes fun at like all the cliches that people put on Christianity, and so funny, and I definitely recommend this. And then I read another Meg Cabot book. She has a paranormal vampire series, and I read the first book, Insatiable, I don't know. The first book was okay. I tried to continue the series, and I'm like, no, this is just ridiculous. So I would recommend it if you like vampire books. Okay, then the next I read the first two in the Match series, and that is Matched and Crossed by Ali Condie. And then the next book I read the first book in the Maze Runner series, and that's Maze Runner by James Dashner. And I personally did not like the book all that much, but I definitely can see if you are a 12, 13-year-old boy how you would love it. And I highly recommend it if you're a mom or a teacher and you're looking for a book to engage your adolescent teen boys, you know, preteen boys. This is definitely a series to pick up for them, because like the language is for teen boys, and the narrator is a teenage boy, and so recommend it for that age group. Okay, and then my husband read to me the Lord of the Rings series, so the Fellowship of the Ring, we didn't read that one, The Two Towers, and Return of the King. I didn't grab that one, I don't know why. Oh well. Okay, so yeah, so he read the Lord of the Rings series to me. Okay, and then, oh my goodness, I hope this is not going to be like forever long. Okay, and then I read this awful book called Arousing Love by M.H. Storm. Christian fiction, the worst Christian fiction I've ever read. I'm really sorry, it just was not good. Okay, and then I read The Sorcerer's Stone by Harry Potter. No, by J.K. Rowling, and this is a reread. I am rereading the series, and it's awesome, wonderful, fantastic. I don't need to say anymore because it's just awesome. Okay, and then I read, let's see, where was I? Then I read Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. I think I'll eventually finish the series, but it's not something that I'm really like, I need to finish this. I need to know how these characters end, because not really that attached to them. Okay, I think we're almost done. So, maybe, sort of. Okay, so the next set of books that I read were the Selection series, and that includes the Selection, the Elite, the One, and I also read the Selection Stories, The Prince and the Guard, all by Kira Cass, and I highly recommend the series. And I also, if you've read the series but have not read the short stories and are wondering, should I read them? I say yes, definitely. Especially The Prince, it gives more depth to the story. Then the next book that I read was the first book in the Enchanted Ink series by Shauna Swenson, and I highly recommend them. They're funny, hysterical. If you're looking for good adult fiction that is just fun, highly recommend it, and that is the Enchanted Ink series. Then the next book, I read two books by Rainbow Rowell, Eleanor and Park, and Fangirl, and I enjoyed them. I wouldn't say that I would rave about them like everybody else had. They weren't like the best books that I've ever read, but they were good, and I recommend them. And then I read Jemima J by Jane Green, and I did not like that book. We'll just move on. That's all I have to say. And then I read Rebel Belle by Rachel Hawkins, and I was so excited when I when I went into this book, I didn't realize it was going to be part of a series, and then when I finished it, I found out that there was going to be a series with these characters. I was so excited, and so I highly recommend this book, one of my favorites of the year. And then I read Paper Valentine by Brenna Yavanoff, and this was an interesting book. I think it had great potential, but it just kind of petered out in the end. And then I read I have this book. A Beauty So Rare by Tamara Alexander. This is her most recent book, and although it wasn't my favorite of hers, it was definitely by far one of my least favorites. It was pretty slow, and it just it didn't have the same feel as the rest of them, but it was still good, and I still would recommend it. Okay, and then we read Austen Land by Shannon Hale, and I've said a lot about this book. It's awesome. If you like Pride and Prejudice, read it. It's fantastic. And then watch the movie, because the movie's funny, but not as good as the book. Okay, and then I read The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey, and then I read A Sensible Arrangement by Tracy Peterson, and I think I've said enough about that. It wasn't my favorite. And then I read Firefly Lane and Fly Away by Kristen Hanna. I've said a lot about these books, and they're fantastic. They're so good. And then I read the Throne of Glass series, so that includes Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, which I do not have, and Air of Fire by Sarah J. Maas. And I would say read the series. It's really good. But no, Throne of Glass is fantastic. Crown of Midnight is pretty good. Air of Fire, the last 100 pages are really good. Just know you have to get through like 400 pages that are like yes. So I recommend the series. And my husband just finished Throne of Glass and he loved it. So it's not just a girly book. And then we read Christina's Ghost by Betty Wren Wright. This is a children's book that I read during Halloween that just reminded me of my childhood. And it was good. And then I read Don't Look Back by Jennifer L. Armentrout. And it was fantastic. Amazing, amazing book. I actually have a review for that. And I will put that down below. And then I read Identity by Ted Dekker, which is the first book in the Eyes Wide Open series, whatever you want to call it, and it was okay. It was okay. Okay. And then I have this book. I read Kingdom Keepers by, who's this by? Ridley Pearson, and this is a Disney World book that I got when we were at Disney World this summer, and it was a really fun read. This is another book that if you're looking for a book for preteen, early teen age boys, this is a great series to get them started on. Especially if they like just mystery books and they like Disney World. Definitely, it's great. So, that was Kingdom Keepers. And the next book I read was Before I Go to Sleep by S.J. Watson. Another fantastic book. Awesome. Have a review of that. I'll put it down below. And then I listened to An Abundance of Catherines by John Green, and I heard from my friend who had read this book that she struggled through it. But listening to it, it was hilarious. Hilarious. So funny. So I recommend, this is another book that you should listen to. It is so funny. The actor that read the book was hysterical, and it was so good. So good. I couldn't imagine actually reading this book. I really couldn't. I really couldn't. And then I read Ghost Night by Cornelia Funk. It's another junior adolescent book that I read over Halloween. It was great. It was great. Sort of good. I don't know. It was okay. And then I read Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore by Robin Sloan. That was okay. And then I read A Cliche Christmas by Nicole Deese, and this was fantastic, awesome book, and I have a review of that, and I'll link that down below. It was awesome. Oh, I actually forgot about this book. I have my Christmas books. Okay, and then I read Sarah Dessen's The Truth About Forever. This was my first Sarah Dessen book, and I absolutely loved it. It was so good, and it was really cool is that I didn't actually have this book until I went to the book fair, and it was there for 50 cents, and I was so excited. Okay, and then we're almost there, guys. And then we have A Long and Far Away Gone by Lou Burney. This is a book that's going to come out on the 10th of February. Highly recommend it. You should go check it out. It's fantastic. So good. And I've reviewed that, which I will link down below. And then last 2 books I read My True Love Gave to Me, the collection of short stories, which is edited by Stephanie Perkins, and it has some great authors in it. And I highly recommend this if you're looking for a holiday story. Most of them are really good. Some of them are eh. One of them I didn't like. So definitely one that I will read next year, reading my favorites. And then the last book that I read in 2014 was Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And my husband and I read this out loud to each other, and it was awesome. My first time ever reading A Christmas Carol, and it was fantastic. Oh, so those are the books that I read in 2014. Any book that I have a full review on, I will link down below. So guys, I hope you stuck with me, and I'm looking forward to 2015, and I'll see you guys on the flip side.